this video, what I'd like to discuss with you is the path to optimal health. What I notice with my patients, and all of my patients, in fact, everyone that I've ever come in contact with, they want to have more health. I've never met a person that has said, I have enough health, I want to share it with someone else. Everybody wants to be healthier, happier, more vibrant in their life. So this video is going to discuss what health is, what it isn't. It's going to look at 7 different areas of your lives that you can take an inventory on, and that you can see how you're doing in these areas, because those areas, those 7 areas that we're going to talk about, are areas that I have noticed over the past 25 plus years of being in practice. I've noticed that these are areas that significantly impact the quality of your life, significantly impact your health. So let's start off with talking about what health is. What is health? If you ask people what health is, they're going to give you different answers. Some people are going to give you answers that's feeling fine. Some people are going to give you, in other words, it's all about how you feel. Some people are going to answer it in terms of whether they have a disease or they don't have a disease. In other words, if I don't have a disease, then I'm healthy. And if I do have a disease, then I'm not healthy. Those are 2 of the most common answers I get when I ask people what health is. Is it these 2 things? Both of them, neither of them, one or the other? And the answer we're going to turn to find the answer to this is in Taber's Medical Dictionary. Here's what Taber's Medical Dictionary says health is. Health is when all bodily functions are normally active. And it's not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So health actually, in this definition, has 2 parts to it. The first part is what health is. What is health? It's when your body is functioning normally. The second part is what health isn't. It's not just the absence of pain, quote-unquote infirmity, or disease. Health is much more than the absence of pain. Health is much more than the absence of disease. So health is when your body is functioning the way it's supposed to function. Now, if we turn to another text, and that is Gray's Anatomy, not the TV program, the actual textbook, Gray's Anatomy, we find that the central nervous system controls and coordinates all the functions of the human body. So if we think about these 2 things, what health is, by definition, when your body is functioning normally, and what controls that function, the central nervous system, then we can come to the conclusion that if health is determined by how your body's functioning, and function is determined by your central nervous system, then your central nervous system must play an important role in your health. But my question to you is this: how many times during your life have you had your central nervous system evaluated to see how well it was performing, whether it was doing what it was supposed to be doing? If your central nervous system, by definition, medical definition, and by the physiological textbook, the greatest textbook in physiology of all time, Gray's Anatomy, brings these 2 things together, then why is it not more evaluated on a year-by-year basis? I mean, when you go for your yearly physical, are they really looking at how well your central nervous system is functioning? I mean, they listen to your heart, they listen to your lungs, they look in your ears and your eyes and your nose and your throat. All important things, don't get me wrong. But what is the central nervous system test they do? It's called a knee-jerk test. They kind of hit your knee and your foot reflexes. That's really not a good central nervous system evaluation. Central nervous system goes unevaluated unless you have symptoms that are associated with it, and that's a shame, because the central nervous system plays a huge part in your overall health. And although you may think chiropractic was born, if you will, because of helping people with back pain, chiropractic was actually born to assess your central nervous system and how well it's functioning and how it relates to your overall health. But more about that to come. Here's another conclusion that I want to draw from our initial discussion here. Getting rid of all the disease in the world is a good thing, right? But getting rid of all the disease in the world does not bring about a healthier world. Now think about that for a minute. Getting rid of all the disease in the world does not bring about a healthier world. Why? Because lack of disease is not the same as health. Now, granted, lack of disease is much better than being diseased, but it's not the same thing as health. Health is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Okay? Health is not experienced by treating disease, because health is not the lack of disease. Health is something much more than that, and that's what I want to bring to the forefront of this initial discussion that we're having. Outrageous health, if I was going to define it, I would say it's when your body is functioning properly, which relies on the central nervous system, and it translates into physical well-being, mental well-being, as well as social well-being. Okay? Now, before we get started in looking at those 7 areas that will enhance your health, I want to say 3 things. One is, have realistic goals. Right? If you come away from our discussion and you say, I need help in all 7 of these areas, and that may be true, not for everybody, but that may be true. If that's your case, I don't want you to try to tackle all 7 of these areas all at once. Tackle the easiest one. Get that part of your routine. Work that one out. Get that one so that it's just a habit. And then go to the next one. And then go to the next one. And if there's 3 or 4 or 5, just work through them one by one. That's the best way if you have realistic goals. Be absolutely committed. Whatever you decide to do, and you're going to decide to do what you're going to decide to do. I'm not telling you what to do. You decide what you want to do, and when you decide it, be committed. Commitment, if you're not committed, it's not going to get done. And let's have some fun, hopefully during this presentation of these next 7 areas of your life. We're going to have a little fun as we do it. All right, let's list those. I've been talking about 7 areas. What are they? Well, here they are. The central nervous system. We're going to talk about that. That's where we're going to start off, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to talk about nutrition. Okay? We're going to talk about exercise. We're going to talk about rest, posture, positive mental attitude, and then we're going to finish up with stress reduction. As I said, in my over 25, almost now 30 years of experience, these are the areas I see people falling short and affecting the quality of their life and the quality of their health. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the central nervous system. It's the master control system. Every cell, tissue, organ in your body is connected to your central nervous system. Your central nervous system, if it's the master control system and it controls everything, it's got to have connection, and it does. It literally has nervous connection to all the different systems, all the different organs, all the different cells in your body. It's the only system that's completely encased in bone. You know, their brain is encased in your skull, within your skull, and your spinal cord is encased within your spinal column. Okay? The brain is protected, like I said, by the skull, spinal cord, 24 bones. There's an important difference between the two. The skull is not movable, okay, but the spine is. And that's a good thing. So we can bend, turn, twist, play sports, pick up our kids, play with our grandkids, do household chores, work. We don't need a solid 2x4 of a spine. We need a flexible spine, a movable spine, and this is a good thing. This is a great design. The problem that occurs is because it's movable, it can move out of place. And when it moves out of place, okay, that's called subluxation. And that's what chiropractors deal with, subluxation. Okay? Spinal bone that's moved out of place changes the messages going to and from the brain. Yeah? You can see the nerve roots coming out here in between the spinal bones. If those spinal bones misalign, it's going to put pressure on those nerves, and it's going to interfere with nerve flow. That always results in a decrease in your ability to function, which means it's always going to result in a decrease of your overall health. This is how chiropractors contribute to your health, by removing subluxation, by removing nerve interference, by allowing your brain to better control the function of your body, and therefore increase and improve your overall health and well-being. I think of the nervous system like a circuit breaker box in your house. I'm sure you've seen it. You've been in it. Something overloaded the circuit and the circuit breaker shut off so you don't have a fire in your house. So what do you do when that happens? Well, do you replace the refrigerator, the microwave, the stove, or do you go and flip the circuit breaker back on so that current, energy, juice, electricity can get back to those appliances and they start to work again? And the answer is obviously you flip the circuit back on. And as a chiropractor, in a very rudimentary way, that's what we do. We take the spine, which looks like a circuit breaker box, and we flip it back on. Okay? Who gets subluxations? Who gets these misalignments? Well, the first subluxation process can happen at birth. Research has shown, and this has been researched in multiple peer-reviewed journals, that many newborns suffer with neck and spinal cord damage, trauma at birth due to subluxation, due to misalignment. You fall, you play sports, you have motor vehicle accidents, you stress, poor posture. All of these things affect your spine and your nervous system. And they all add up over the years. I see people that come into my office 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, and their spine has been neglected for that long, and it's shifted, and it's deteriorating, and it's arthritic, and it's affecting nerve flow, and it's affecting the quality of their life. And just when they want to be enjoying life, they can't because of it. Subluxations are real, and they affect you in a real way. Okay? Now, what was the second one on the list was nutrition. So let's talk about what you eat. Because what you eat is going to fuel your body, so it's important what you eat. And what we have here is a graph, and I know you probably can't read it, but hopefully you can see the green and the red lines. And let me tell you what the green and the red lines are. The green line is the plant-based diet. So in other words, on the y-axis are different countries. On the x-axis are different percentages, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Okay? And so the first country, the plant-based diet is almost 100%. I mean, they consume very little other than plant-based food. Okay? The red is the percentage of that country that dies from heart disease and cancer. Now, what's the number one, number two killer in the United States? Heart disease, cancer. Okay? This country has very little heart disease, very little cancer. They have a huge plant-based diet, nutritional intake. As the plant-based diet goes down, what proportionally goes up? Can you see that? As the plant-based diet goes down, what goes up? Heart disease and cancer. Okay? So what am I saying? We should all become vegans tomorrow? And the answer is no. I'm not saying that we should all become vegans tomorrow, but what I am saying is that we should eat more raw fruits and vegetables than we do. Every healthcare association recommends a diet in high fruits and vegetables. Go to any website, American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, American Diabetic Association, and read what are the preventative measures for those diseases, those conditions, and eating more fruits and vegetables is going to be one of the top ones. Right? I call it eating a colorful rainbow diet. Now, here's the reality. If we were to look at the American diet from a color perspective, we would take a plate of food, and we would just look and see what colors we have on our plate. More often than not, it's going to be white and brown. White being some type of starch, brown being some type of meat. We don't see a lot of colors on our plates. We need to see more colors. We need to see greens, yellows, oranges, reds, purples, blues. Our plate literally should be colorful. But more often than not, it's meat and potatoes. And so we are not feeding our bodies at the cellular level what we need to exhibit function, healthy, normal, good function. We're depriving it. We may be full, our bellies may be full, but our cells are starving because we're not giving them the nutrition that they need. Okay? I tell people that they should eat fresh foods, fresh fruits and vegetables first, frozen second, and stay away from canned. Too much sodium. We have so many opportunities in Greenville to buy foods at local markets. The fresh market, we've got a farmer's market down on Rutherford Road. We've got another type of farmer's market, Butler Road in Malden. Downtown, they do farmers markets as well. We have so many, the Swamp Rabbit Cafe sells local produce, so many options to buy local, good, nutritious foods. The USDA recommendations continue to increase. When I was in school and having health class, they told us that we should eat 3 to 5 servings of vegetables and fruits a day. That was what the recommendations were. Everybody remember the pyramid, where you had all the different things, breads, dairies, fruits, vegetables, meats on the pyramid? What does a pyramid have to do with health? They changed that, by the way. For those of you that are older, they no longer teach the pyramid. Here's what they teach. They teach the plate. Now that makes more sense to me, because I don't have a pyramid in front of me when I'm eating. But I do have a plate in front of me when I'm eating. And if I could follow this guideline, this would be extremely beneficial. I know it's not perfectly 25%, but if 25% were fruit on my plate, 25% were vegetable on my plate, 25% were grain, and 25% lean meat, and lots of colors like we just talked about, then I would be giving my body the nutrition that it needs. Right? Something to think about, visually looking at that. Now, if you go pull this, it's kind of blurry on here, and it's probably blurry on the video as well, but if you go pull this, you're going to off the internet, you're going to see a blue circle over there that I crossed out. Any guesses of what that blue circle is? A lot of people guess it's dessert. It's not. It's actually dairy. Okay? And I just want to spend 2 seconds talking about dairy, because we've all been told that dairy is good for our bones. We've all been told that dairy is healthy for us. But I have a new campaign. You've seen the campaign, Got Milk, with the mustache and the person up there. I got a new campaign, Got Pus. You're going to see it all. No, I'm not going to put it on billboards all over Greenville. But literally, an 8-ounce glass of milk has 135 million pus cells in it. Did you ever wonder why it was white? Okay, it's got pus cells in it. That's what you're drinking when you drink milk. You're drinking bovine or cow growth hormones, antibiotics, feces. Did you know there's a federal law that says only so much feces is allowed in an 8-ounce glass of milk? Right? Only so much. Like, it's not zero, it's only so much. You're drinking feces, calories, fat, but here's my favorite one. In a whole glass of milk, you have acidic protein in that milk, which actually leaches calcium out of the bone. Wait a minute. All the advertising says drink milk so calcium goes into the bone. But the reality is calcium gets leached out of the bone at a faster rate than it goes into the bone, because there's acidic protein in the milk. I bet you they didn't tell you that on the billboards that you're reading. Okay? So I skip milk. I don't drink milk. Do you know where you get your calcium from? The calcium that's bioavailable, the calcium that you can absorb and will strengthen your bones, you get that from green leafy vegetables. You get that from kale, collard, spinach, those types of vegetables, not milk. Okay? When I grew up, 3 to 5 servings was being taught. Do you know what they teach nowadays? They teach 9 to 13 servings. 9 to 13 servings. Okay? How many of you are actually doing 9 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day? I know I'm not. So how do we get from where we are, whatever that number is, to closer to 9 to 13? How does that work? Well, you can go do something differently. You can go to my website, and you can look up under blogs and research. And I wrote a blog on something called Juice Plus. Now, this is just one option I'm giving you. There are many other ones out there. It's the one that I use, but again, I'm not pushing Juice Plus. I'm just giving you an option to get more fruits and vegetables, raw nutrients, enzymes, coenzymes, phytochemicals, antioxidants into your bloodstream, into your body, into your cells. Okay? 17 different fruits and vegetables, There's also a cardiac formula. They have antioxidants. I take these every day. Every single day I take Juice Plus. There's barley green. Again, there's other things that you can take, but you probably need to do some whole food supplementation as well, okay? One other thing about nutrition, this is the last thing I want to talk about nutrition. This is actually the longest of the 7 that we talk about because there's so much. All 7 of these, I mean, we can spend a lifetime looking at any one of these 7. Nutrition being obvious, we can spend a lifetime doing that. I'm just hitting the highlights of the highlights. I'm just starting the conversation, right? And water is an important part of the conversation. We need to be hydrated. I mean, anywhere from 70 to 80% of our body is water. Every single chemical interaction that your body has as a substrate water. And we are dehydrated as a society. Most people wait until they're thirsty to drink. And if you've done that, waited until you're thirsty to drink, you are already dehydrated. We need to drink regularly throughout the day. Okay? We need to drink intentionally throughout the day. How much? Well, back in the day when I was taught was 8-ounce glasses, 64 ounces a day. But does that really make sense? Somebody of my size need the same amount of water intake like a petite woman would need? No, it doesn't make sense at all. There's a better way of thinking of how much water you should be consuming on a regular day. And here's the formula. Half your body weight in ounces. You're 100 pounds, 50 ounces. You're 200 pounds, 100 ounces. You're 300 pounds, 150 ounces. That's how much water you should be intaking on a regular daily basis. Of course, if your job is outside in the heat, you're going to need to take way more than that. This is just a normal inside job, more sedentary than active. Should be half of your body weight in ounces. How are you doing with that? This is an easy one to start off with. You can just figure out how many bottles you need a day, fill up a gallon in the morning, fill up a gallon in the afternoon, and get through it in the morning, get through it in the afternoon. It's simple, but it makes a huge impact on your health and your wellness and the health of your body internally. Okay? Now let's switch gears. That was nutrition. We talked about the central nervous system, we talked about nutrition. Now we're switching gears and we're going to talk about exercise. Now, to save time, I'm not going to go into all the research that says exercise is an important part of a healthy lifestyle. I think even if you don't exercise, you probably already know that. What I want to talk about is the 2 different types of exercise, aerobic exercise and anaerobic or strength exercising. Okay? What is aerobic exercise? Aerobic exercise is continuous and steady, and it's an increase in your heart rate and your respiration. Okay. What the research says is minimally, for a healthy lifestyle, you should be doing aerobic, continuous, steady raising of heart rate and respiration 3 times a week for a minimum of 20 minutes each time. Not a big commitment. You don't have to do it in the gym. You don't have to go for hours in the gym. You don't have to do it 7 days a week. You could if you want to, but a good starting point, what the research says is vital to a healthy lifestyle is 3 times a week for 20 minutes. It could be a walk, a brisk walk where you're sweating and you're breathing heavy, or a jog, or a bicycle ride. And I'm not talking about a leisurely bike ride in the park. I'm talking about where your heart rate and your respiration is elevated for a 20-minute period. Swimming, another good exercise that you can do that's aerobic as well. Okay, and again, you don't have to belong to a gym to do it. Now, something happens at the age of around in your mid-30s. Around the age of 35, our physiology changes. And here's what happens. We start to lose muscle mass. It's just a natural part of aging. We start to lose muscle mass, and what happens is that muscle is what burns fat. Let me say that again. Muscle burns fat. So if around the age of 35 we start to lose muscle mass, we start to lose the ability to burn fat, which means we gain fat. Okay? So how do you counteract the normal physiological process of losing muscle mass? Well, you do strength training, okay? You do some resistive strength training to build muscle, right? To counteract the natural loss of muscle. So after age 35, somewhere in that range, doing strength training becomes even more important for a general healthy, overall healthy life, so that you can keep your muscle mass up and keep burning the fat as well. Okay? My life at this, I'm significantly over 35. So 3 times a week I'm doing aerobic exercising, and twice a week I'm doing strength training. And you know, it's a half an hour of strength training and aerobic exercising. I don't go to the gym and spend 3 hours in the gym. I wouldn't ask anybody to do that. Start off with 20 minutes to a half an hour. It's okay. You let the people in there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, you let them do their thing. You do yours. All right? You don't even have to go to a gym. Just go for a real brisk walk around the block. Start there. Okay? You should all be able to do this when I'm done with you. No, I'm just kidding. You're not going to be able to do that. All right, so how are we doing so far? I hope we're doing okay. We're kind of at the midpoint here. All right? I want to hit the home stretch. My passion and mission is to educate and to help people live healthier, happier, vibrant lives. Professionally, I decided to do that as a chiropractor. But I do these types of health talks, these types of talks about lifestyle and quality of life, and I volunteer to do that, and I do that at different churches, companies, civic organizations. So I mention that because if you are involved in one of these types of organizations and you want someone to come in and speak, someone to come in and spend 15, 20, 30 minutes with your tribe there, and you want somebody to educate them in these areas, I love doing it. I have no fear of speaking in public, and I'd be willing to volunteer my time to do it. Just let me know. Okay. All right, let's talk about rest. You know, people have, and this is another important part of a healthy lifestyle, people have trouble getting to sleep. People have trouble resting. They get up and 3, 4, 5, 6 times a night. They may fall asleep quick, but they can't stay asleep. There's so many different variations here. Here's the reality. The reality is that rest is important because when you're resting, when you're sleeping, you're reducing stress. When you're sleeping, you're relaxing muscles. When you're sleeping, you're healing. Most of the healing that happens internally in your body happens when you're sleeping, not when you're up and around. So if you're not sleeping well, you're not healing well. Recharges your energy levels, decreases the effects of gravity on your joints. These are just some of the positive effects of good, solid rest. Okay? Now, I have suggestions. If you have trouble sleeping, go to bed and get up at the same time. Your body loves rhythm. Your body responds to rhythm. Okay? That's why I have you on a rhythmic adjusting schedule. It's because if you're on a non-rhythmic adjusting schedule, you're still getting adjusted, but you're not getting the full potential of your adjustments. Your body loves rhythm. In fact, there's a circadian cycles in your rhythm. That's the 24-hour cycle of the day. Sun goes up, sun goes down. You know, we're up during the day, sleeping at night. At least most people are. In fact, here's a good point. The people who are reversed, who work at night and sleep during the day, when their health is studied, their health is much more diminished than the person who's in the right cycle, up during the day, sleeping during the night. This has been researched and studied and printed in multiple peer-reviewed journals. So circadian cycles, I mean, think of all the cycles in our lives, winter, then spring, then summer, then fall, and it happens that way all the time. Cycles are part of who we are and how we function. And again, that's why I have you on a rhythmic adjusting schedule. But sleep cycles are important as well. In fact, they even came up with a drug. I love the pharmaceutical industry. They'll create a problem and find a drug for it, like non-24, a circadian rhythm disorder. So now you can take a pill for it. I wouldn't, but it's available. It's not the number of hours that you get sleeping. Okay? In other words, have you ever slept for 12 hours straight and still felt like miserable when you woke up the next day? Because it's not the number of hours you get that really refreshes you, that recharges you, that gives you the healing. It's the number of REM hours that you get. Okay? Now, REM is a segment, a part of your sleep cycle. And what the research shows is that if you get 2 hours of REM total across your entire sleep cycle, 2 hours of REM, you may get 30 seconds here, 40 seconds here, a minute here, 2 minutes there. But if it adds up to 2 hours, that's when you get the benefits that we just discussed about rest. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about this, when you look at circadian cycles and you look at this 2 hours of REM, when do you get the most uninterrupted REM? And it's interesting, you get it between the hours of 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. That's when you get the most uninterrupted REM in your sleep cycle. The problem with this is most people aren't sleeping at 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. They're watching the news, they're surfing the internet, they're watching a program, they're up and about and doing things, folding clothes that they didn't get done for the day. They're doing things, they're not sleeping. So they're going to bed at 11:30, 12 o'clock. They're getting 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep. They get up and they're exhausted all the time. And it's not because they need 10 hours of sleep and they're only getting 6. It's because they're not getting the 2 hours of REM. So something to consider if you find yourself sluggish and tired all the time is to get into a cycle of going to bed a little earlier, maybe between those times, getting more REM sleep during that time period. Wind down before you get in bed, that's an important part too. A lot of people will just jump into bed from whatever they were doing before they decide to go to bed. And their body doesn't know that it's time to go to bed because they haven't started to wind down and get into a routine for bed. That's important. Our bodies love routine. Get into a routine if you have trouble sleeping. If you have problems getting to sleep, don't read, watch TV in bed. This is straight from the psychologist. They say don't watch TV, don't read, don't do anything in bed but sleep. What this does is it tells your body, when I lay down in that bed, there's only one thing we're doing, and that is going to sleep. Okay? And the last thing is it has to be dark. Okay? Dark, dark, dark. Any ambient light in your room is going to affect your sleep cycle and affect your REM cycle, and therefore it's going to affect how refreshed you feel. So make it dark. I know some of you love night lights. They're not helping you with your sleep cycles. Even a little red diode on your TV has been shown to affect your sleep cycle. Make it as dark as you possibly can. Okay? All right, posture. All right, we're flying through this now. Posture. Posture is an important part of health. Now, I always stop here and say, listen, I know you think that I'm just telling you that because I'm a chiropractor and that's what I'm supposed to tell you, but the reality is it's true. Okay? Your posture is extremely important. Okay? Good posture helps maintain your spinal health. Okay? You don't want to be sleeping all like this. This is not going to help your spine relax and the muscles relax. Okay? Number 2 is good posture allows your internal organs to function properly. Listen, health is all about function. You want everything functioning optimally. You need to have good posture. Okay? Richard Sperry won the Nobel Prize based on his work with posture and brain activity, spinal alignment and brain activity. And the relationship between the two. The better your spinal movement and alignment, the better brain activity you have. Your posture matters. Okay? Your brain sends messages throughout your entire body, anywhere up to 365 miles an hour. And if your posture, it looks more like a Formula racetrack, going all like this, if your posture is like that, you're going to slow down your impulses, and that's not good for your body. Bottom line is, the healthier your posture is, the better your posture is, the healthier you are. Listen, if you don't believe me, here's a challenge that I give to all my patients. I tell them to take the nursing home challenge. What do I mean? I mean, go into a nursing home and try to find somebody with good posture. You're not going to find anybody with good posture. What you're going to find is people with their slouched over in their chair, on their walker, in their bed, not good posture. Okay? Now, is that a product of the nursing home, or is that one of the reasons they're in the nursing home? And the answer is it's one of the reasons they're in the nursing home. Because the same generation of people that are on their own, living their lives in their own homes, self-sufficient, taking care of themselves, by and large have much better posture than the people that are the same age in the nursing home. So if you don't believe me that posture makes a difference, okay, sit straight up, stand straight up, don't slouch, don't cross your legs, don't get in front of the computer for hours and hours like this. Okay? If you don't believe me, just take the nursing home challenge. I think you'll be surprised. Okay? We got 2 more. Positive mental attitude and then stress reduction. I do not want, again, what are we doing? We're doing 7 different areas of your lives that you can take an inventory on, that see where you can do better, that will help improve your function and therefore the quality of your life and your overall health and well-being. And having a positive mental attitude should not be ignored. You know, I call it an attitude of gratitude. See, most people gravitate to the complaint line and not many people on the gratitude line. And I have to be honest with you, I was wired that way. I was more of a pessimist than an optimist. I would look at things critically and pick them apart rather than see what's right with things. And that bothered me. And it bothered me for a lot of years. And I decided many years ago to do something about it. And I went on a journey to figure out what I could do to change that. And what I found was something very interesting, something I didn't expect to find. And that is that you can actually rewire your brain. Now, this was way before the science of neuroplasticity ever hit the airwaves that you ever heard the term before. It's all over the place now. It's literally rewiring your brain. You can do that. And one of the interesting ways you can do that is by journaling. There is something about kinesthetically writing it down, thinking about it, and writing it down at the same time that starts to rewire your brain. So many years ago, I bought a journal, just a brown leather journal, and I opened it up and I started to put the date on it, and I said, okay, what positive happened today? And I just wrote a couple of lines of positive things that went on. I did that the next day, and I did that the next day, and I did that the next day. And I did that for over several years. And what I saw is that as I was doing that, I was rewiring my brain. I was starting to think of things differently. I was starting to look at the positive aspect of things rather than the negative aspect of things. I became a much more positive person in my outlook on life. That's not my natural bent. I still struggle today with wanting to fall back into that critical thinking aspect, right? But the research is clear. The more positive your thoughts are, the more positive you think, the better health, better quality of life you have. If you have a disease or sickness and you have a positive mental outlook on things, you respond better to the treatment protocols. Just having a general positive outlook on things gives you a general overall health improvement. Okay? So, the last thing I want to end with is stress reduction. In fact, we can probably skip that because nobody's under stress, right? Everybody's under stress, right? Everybody has some level of stress. There are real physiological effects from stress, okay? And some of these, high blood pressure, diabetes, osteoporosis, short-term memory loss, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, our bodies were very capable, are very capable of dealing with stress. Stress that comes, stress that goes. Stress comes, stress goes. If that's the way stress is in our lives, our bodies can handle that efficiently. The problem is that's not the way stress happens most of the time. Stress comes and it doesn't go. It doesn't necessarily flatline, but it kind of does this, but it stays along a relatively flat plane. And our bodies over time, with the cortisol production in our adrenal glands, just can't deal with that, and that's where you get these issues here, right? It also shows up in your posture. This is a stressed posture right here, okay? Now, that looks like a 90-year-old guy. That's a 58-year-old guy. In fact, it's a 58-year-old guy that every one of you know. His name is Bill Gates. That's Bill Gates' silhouette when he was 58 years old. Okay? See how he's all hunched over like that? First postural sign is that forward head posture. That's what FHP stands for, forward head posture. and then the whole thoracic mid-back area starts to follow and become rounded like you see in here. This causes some very serious health consequences. And although Bill Gates is in and out of the news, he has taken a back seat in a lot of things because of some health issues that he's dealing with, right? If you see a person with a postural configuration that looks like this, you know that their spine is shifted, their nervous system is being affected, and their quality of life is being diminished. There's no amount of money in the world that can change that. That has to be physically worked on. So, what are some practical things that you can do to reduce the stress in your life? I'm going to start out somewhere right here. Personal relationship with God. You know, my experience has been this, and the research actually is there. Secular researchers have looked at the personal relationship with God. They call it people of faith compared to people of non-faith. That's their terms. And what they say is people of faith have less physiological effects of stress on their lives because they have come to the conclusion that they're not in control, that there is a higher power that is in control. And so, although I would contend that there are more important reasons that one should pursue a personal relationship with the Creator God than reducing stress in their lives, it's a nice perk, it's a nice side effect. Okay? But that's not where I want to stop. Quiet time. 15 minutes of quiet time has been shown to reduce stress. So has emotional releases. What do I mean by emotional releases? I mean crying, laughing, yelling. Just don't yell at someone else. That's emotionally stressful for them, even though it might be emotionally releasing for you. Okay, those are emotional releases. Positive mental attitude reduces stress, the effects of stress. A hobby reduces the effects of stress. Exercise. We talked about sweating and you know, increased respiration, increased heart rate. All right. I can't sweat for you. You need to sweat for yourself. Okay? Exercise will reduce stress in your life. Just 15 to 30 minutes a day. Adjustments. What do adjustments do? Well, they reduce stress. They reduce the stress on the joints. They reduce the stress on the nerves. Allow for better nerve flow. A massage will reduce the stress on the muscular system as well. Juice Plus, you know, taking those fruits and vegetables, eating raw fruits and vegetables, taking vegetable type supplementation gives you antioxidants, which do what? They reduce the effects of oxidative stress at the cellular level. And the last thing, one more thing before the last, adrenal support. If your adrenal glands are fatigued, you can find adrenal support that will help you get out of that fatigued cycle you're in and get you back on solid ground and help you keep you there as well. And the last thing I want to talk to you about in this video is something that has made a huge difference in my life. I went on a 5-year, I'll call it an odyssey. Okay, I went on a 5-year odyssey to figure out how I can get more done in my day. See, I was stressed out because there were so many things that needed to happen in my life and they just weren't happening, and that stress was piling on top of me. And so I started reading books and listening to tapes. This was before podcasts, and going to seminars, and actually even went to a weekend camp once to find out how I could improve my time management skills, get more done, and have a less stressful day. Out of all of those 5 years and all of that money I spent, there was one thing that made the biggest difference for me, and I want to share it with you. And that is, someone told me that I needed to think of my day as 3 days, 3 separate distinct days within the 24-hour day. And I want to share with you how they broke it down. Day 1 was the time between where I woke up to the time between I got to work. That time period was day 1. And in that time period, most people just know exactly what they need to do. The hygiene, they get they have it down to a science. In other words, if something goes a little off, a little more traffic than normal, they're going to be a couple minutes late because they know exactly how many times they need to hit the snooze button. They know exactly, what time they need to get up to make it happen. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in day 1. Day 2 is when you get to work to when you get home again. That's day 2. And that's the work day. That's where work is happening. That's where you're getting paid for whatever you're doing. And then day 3 is by the time you get home to the time you wake up again the next day. That's day 3. That includes your sleep cycle. Now, many years ago when I learned this, again, I had no time between day 1 and day 1. I had no time in day 2. I was here. I was working. Day 3, when I got home, I had 2 children. One was 5, one was 3. And when I got home, my wife would hand them to me and say, listen, need some help here. I've had them all day. So it wasn't like I just got to go home and just kind of kick back. I had responsibilities as a father. So we ate together, we played together, we read together, we tucked them into bed together. And then as a husband responsibilities, I had quality time with my wife. She needed some adult conversations. So, by the time I got the kids, we got the kids down to bed, it was around 8:30. And then by the time my wife, was done talking with me, it was around, 9 o'clock or so. And communication, talking in the Auger household was Lisa, my wife, talking and me listening. That's how we communicate. We communicated back then. But again, she had a lot of talking she wanted to do. Tell me about the whole day, the kids, and everything like that. And then, I took the remote like any red-blooded American. I turned on the ESPN or whatever I was going to turn on, and I fell in and out of sleep until it was around 11:30. And then I got into bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I did it all over again. And I, frankly, had no time for anything else. And so my exercise routine was gone, my devotions were gone, my quiet time was gone. And so I was being presented this by someone who I was paying to listen to, and they challenged me. And I'm going to challenge you with the same challenge they challenged me. If you're not getting enough done in your life, and you think you need more time and better time management, or you want to do that exercise, but you just can't, you don't have enough time. You want to do that hobby, but you don't have enough time. You want to have those devotions, but you just can't find the time to do it. I'm going to challenge you to do what I was challenged to do, and that is this: to take 15 minutes off of day 3. In other words, intentionally go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Since I went to bed at 11:30, I made it a point that I was in bed at 10:45. And I set my alarm clock for 15 minutes earlier. So I got the same amount of time in bed. I just woke up, went to bed a little bit earlier, 15 minutes, and woke up 15 minutes earlier. I hit the snooze button the same amount of time. I did everything normal. And if you do it the way I'm asking you to do it, before you have to get in the car and go to work, you should have 15 minutes of dead space. And I took that 15 minutes, and the challenge was to do a 15-minute quiet time. Just sit there. Let me tell you, 15 minutes is a long time to be quiet. You hear wind blowing, chimes going, you hear birds chirping, things you never heard in the morning when you're sitting there. And after about 5 minutes, you're looking at your watch thinking you just were there for 15 minutes. It was only 5. It takes a little bit of practice to go 15 minutes. But the challenge was do that for 7 days. And if at the end of 7 days you don't feel more refreshed, you don't feel more focus, mental focus, you aren't getting more done in your day by just doing a 15-minute of quiet time, changing nothing else, then just chalk it up as a challenge that didn't work out for you. But for me, it was a life changer. I was floored. Prior to chiropractic, my background's in engineering and mathematics, and I just couldn't figure it out. Why would 15 minutes of quiet time make me more focused, get things more done, feel like I had more done in my day? So I would back that up. I said, you know what? I'm going to do 15 more minutes. I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Or, I'm sorry, if I went to bed at 11:30, 11:15, 11 o'clock, whatever it was, 11 o'clock. And I'm going to get up a half an hour earlier. Half an hour earlier to bed, half an hour earlier up. And on top of the 15 minutes of quiet time, what I decided to do with the other 15 minutes was I decided to make a checklist of everything I wanted to accomplish in that day. And so I started checking things off as I went through the day. And I was just amazed. Now, I continued to back this up to I was getting up at 4:15 in the morning and going to bed around 9:30. And I wasn't tired. This is before I knew about the REM sleep and the 10 to 12 in the evening being the best time for REM. I didn't know that at this time. But I was waking up at 4:50 in the morning, and I was not tired because I was getting all the REM sleep that I needed. And I would go work out, and I would have my devotions, I would have my quiet time, I would do my checklist, all before I got to the office at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay? I started to get more done than I ever did in my life. All because I started to think of my day as 3 separate days and move it around a little bit. I challenge you, take the 15-minute challenge. Okay? So the 7 keys in closing are central nervous system, nutrition, exercise, rest, positive mental attitude, and stress reduction. You know, here's the thing. Health is a result of the choices and actions that you make and that you take. This was information. Information is good. This is good, accurate, factual information. But if you don't do anything with this information, then that's all it is. It's just information. If you want it to be transforming information, then you need to take it and act on it. Okay? Are you going to just wait till everything's broken down and try to reclaim what you once had and now have lost? Or are you going to get on top of the curve, and are you going to start to protect and to embellish what you have and make it even better and live that healthier, happier, more vibrant life? I hope that you will. In any way that I can help you, you let me know. You know how to get in contact with me. God bless. Live with passion.